check out the sale of unlicensed cigarettes, that sort of thing. But Anthony Miranda has become very high profile because of cannabis, right? Because the city has been leading the shutdown of unlicensed cannabis sellers, and Miranda has kind of been the face of that effort because the task force, which also involves the NYPD, but it's led by the New York City Sheriff's Office. So he's doing news conferences with the mayor. He's really been in the public eye, and now we have learned, it was reported first in Politico, that he's under investigation. Now, apparently he's under investigation by the City Department of Investigation. This is not federal investigators, so it appears to be separate and distinct from the various federal investigations into the mayor and his campaign and other members of his administration. This appears to be something altogether. But that doesn't make things any better for the mayor. I mean, the fact that we now have these mushrooming scandals, and this appears to be an entirely new one. But to be clear, we don't know a lot about what this involves. Reportedly it has to do with some type of public corruption. Miranda has been something of a controversial figure, and a union representing workers in the sheriff's office has accused him of fostering a hostile work environment. There has been some controversies in the past. This, though, is something new if there's actually a formal investigation going on.
It is hard to keep track.
It is incredibly hard to keep track at this point.
There was also a report out today that we should discuss, and this is basically highlighting what are, frankly, failures of the city to enforce what it was supposed to in terms of stop and frisk. And it's pretty harsh on the city apparently not punishing officers who engage in illegal stop and frisk. What is the NYPD going to do about this? Because there are serious consequences for not complying with this court order.
It'll be interesting to see what the judge in the case says. So this all stems from a court case that goes back to 2013. It's known as the Floyd case, which was a landmark case. I mean, this was where the judge actually ruled that the way the NYPD was carrying out stop and frisk was unconstitutional, right? So they had to reform the process. I mean, we have seen the number of stop and frisk drop dramatically since the Bloomberg era, but it appears, based on this report that was sort of commissioned by the judge in the case, that there is virtually no discipline of officers who are found to have engaged in some sort of misconduct or wrongdoing as part of the stop and frisk process, which was something that was supposed to be part of the case, part of the reforms undertaken by the NYPD. So the former judge who actually produced the report, this is a 500-page report, and it's scathing in its findings, and it puts a lot of blame on the commissioners, not just the current or former commissioner, but commissioners over the period of 10 or so years for knocking down disciplinary measures in cases where it had been substantiated, right, by outside investigators that there had been some wrongdoing, but in almost all these cases there was little or no discipline that was actually carried out by the department. Because remember, the commissioner has final say. No matter what the CCRB, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, no matter what they find, the commissioner can disregard its findings and throw out any kind of discipline altogether, and that's what's happened in a lot of cases.
And that was Commissioner Caban for the most part, and he's no longer with us.
Yes, but even previous commissioners had done sort of the same thing, although under Caban, it was found, and there's a lot of reporting about this, that he, more than previous commissioners, had downgraded or thrown out recommended discipline against police officers.
So I guess it remains to be seen whether our current interim commissioner in the office for about a week and a half now, Donlin, whose homes have been investigated, or had been searched, I guess, by federal investigators.
And yet another investigation that we have.
We didn't touch on that one, right?
Right.
But it remains to be seen what he will do in terms of stop and frisk, because he's not in this report.
Exactly, and we'll see whether the judge demands some reforms of the NYPD. But up to this point, it seems as though they haven't really complied with the reforms that the court, as part of this agreement, had sort of laid out.
Very interesting. Bobby Cusa, as always, thank you so much. And you can catch Bobby and the rest of the political team at 7 on Inside City Hall. We're going to take a quick break, but first, there are just 42 days until Election Day. New York One's asking people on the streets of the city to weigh in on the race for president.
Crime right now, because the crime is high. Low-income housing for people that need help.
I want to hear the candidates talk about building affordable housing units and a way to cap rent prices.
Improve education, free health care.
Inflation is ridiculous right now. I think people are a lot more depressed than the past couple of years. I think inflation is a direct to that because if you're not able to sufficiently feed yourself, how are you going to be happy?
New York One's Weather on the Ones is brought to you by your local Ford stores. Take the season by storm in a weather-ready Ford SUV. View current offers at buyfordnow.com.
Hey, what's so grande about these?
Flight to Miami, South Beach, we on the way. Billboard Latin music week, you see it's calling your name. 1, 2, 3 millones de dólares. ¿Qué te parece? Grande, grande, sounds grande, grande. Oh, hey, grande, sounds grande, grande.
Play the New York Lottery's new Grande Scratch-Off games. You could win up to $3 million or a second chance VIP trip.
Replacement by Pella is the right choice. We back our products and installation, unlike other window companies.
Pella has the highest quality windows that are tested to protect against extreme weather so they can handle my family and help keep my home quiet.
Yes, and they're backed by some of the best product and installation warranties.
Pella is the only thing in this house I don't have to worry about.
Save on replacement windows by Pella now. But hurry, our sale ends soon.
What's your emergency?
There's been an accident. People are badly hurt.
If you've been hurt in an accident, don't deal with it alone. You need real help fast. You need a lawyer to fight for you and get you what you deserve. You need Chafin Luhana. Call 800-284-8620 right now for your free case review. Insurance companies will do whatever they can to pay you as little as possible. Don't settle. You've been hurt because of someone else's negligence, and you deserve real and meaningful compensation. Chafin Luhana will help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 800-284-8620 now. The call and case review are free, and you pay nothing unless we win your case. Our attorneys have recovered over $1 billion for victims, and we are ready to help you get what you deserve. Don't wait. Go to chafinluhana.com or call 800-284-8620. Don't settle for anything less than what you deserve. Call 800-284-8620 for your free case review. Go to chafinluhana.com or call 800-284-8620. Chafin Luhana, doing good by doing right.
This portion of the news is brought to you by St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida. Let's shine. Plan your escape at visitspc.com.
In a city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on The Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m.
The Parks Department says that the city's 8 beaches and 53 pools saw more than 8 million visitors this summer. More than 7.4 million people visited the public beaches, 1 million visiting outdoor pools. The department also reopened 2 popular pools after construction projects. It was a good summer to hit the beach. Those days are over, Michael.
Those days are long gone, Annika, right? Especially today. We're only in the 60s. Can you believe it?
Yeah, well, September.
September, right? It's on the way. Fall is on the way. Well, it's actually here. We will see more fall-like temperatures for tomorrow, and it'll start to warm up as we move throughout the week. Looking outside, we're cloudy and gloomy. Some of us are actually seeing a few showers this afternoon, but overall, temperatures are a little bit cooler than what they were yesterday. We're seeing temperatures into those 60s. Right now, we're sitting at 65 in Central Park, so generally expect it to be a little bit cooler of an evening commute when you're heading out the door. Satellite and radar, notice some of these showers moving across the 5 boroughs, and this is what we're expecting, at least for the first half of tonight. Overnight will be on the drier side, hour by hour. Notice we see rain chances linger at least into the early evening, and then we're cloudy into tonight with temperatures going to be falling into those upper 50s to the 60-degree mark. So another cooler start to your day for tomorrow, where we see a lot of clouds, not really expecting much, if any, rain, perhaps just a few sprinkles at the very worst. Temperatures tomorrow will be into the upper 60s. Into portions of the 5 boroughs, other areas will be a little bit warmer. For Brooklyn tomorrow, 71 in downtown Brooklyn, 71 in Bay Ridge, as well as for Coney Island. And into portions of Staten Island tomorrow, expect temperatures to be into those middle to upper 60s. to those lower 70s in Eltingville. For your 7-day forecast, here we go. Notice those rain chances returning for Wednesday and Thursday. I think Thursday's our wettest day of the week. And then looking ahead into the weekend, we'll start to dry out with temperatures into the middle 70s. Back to you, Annika.
Okay, thank you, Michael. The Bronx Street where Lloyd's Carrot Cake is located now has a new name, honoring the people who started the beloved bakery in the Bronx. Here comes Dean Meminger has more from the celebration with friends, family, as well as loyal customers.
A stretch along Broadway in the Bronx now memorializing the founders of Lloyd's Carrot Cake. It was codenamed Betty and Lloyd Adams Way.
The people who have served their community, who have sacrificed for their community, who live for their community, and who love their community.
Many customers will tell you Lloyd's Carrot Cake is the best they have ever had. Lloyd Adams opened this location in the Riverdale neighborhood with the help of his wife, Betty, back in 1986. They have passed away, but their children have kept the carrot cake legacy alive.
There is value with, running something that your mom and dad, that they started together, and, how that can really stand the test of time with, with the right mindset.
The city council approved the street co-naming for the couple that was also proud to help others.
Betty and Lloyd were community activists, and I knew Betty. She was at every single community event. She was so supportive of all of our community initiatives, and that's what our small businesses should be. That's what a community is. We all come together and support one another, including our small business owners.
There's a small staff that operates this Bronx location as well as one in East Harlem. The family business spreads love and cheer with this sweet treat. And for many families, Lloyd's Carrot Cake is about their traditions as well. Many people line up along this block during the holidays to pick up 1, 2, maybe even 3 cakes.
I've been coming to this place for many years. I've gotten cakes here, muffins, for parties, for friends.
My aunt was born and raised in Port Limon, Costa Rica. Lloyd Adams was actually born in St. Thomas. So it's just looking at the way our two different cultures, the West Indian and also the Spanish influence, what is now Lloyd's Carrot Cake, which is made from scratch and with love.
And this is not only a local sweet spot. People place orders from around the country for a taste that can definitely bring a smile to your face. In the Bronx, Dean Meminger, New York 1.
Finally this hour, the Tony Awards are returning to the Broadway Theater District. The 78th annual ceremony will go back to its familiar home at Radio City Music Hall. This comes after 2 years that organizers experimented with different locations. In 2023, the ceremony was at the United Palace in Washington Heights. Last year, the Tonys took place at the David H. Koch Theater at Lincoln Center. Move back to Radio City will mark the 21st time that the celebrated venue has hosted the Tonys. The Tony Awards are scheduled for June 8th, 2025. Coming up in our next hour, the attorney representing one of the bystanders who was shot in the Sutter Avenue subway shooting tells me exclusively that the family of Gregory Delpeche was outraged by that body cam video. And a new report reveals the NYPD is unwilling to discipline officers who have violated stop and frisk procedures. We will have those details in the 5 o'clock rush. Stay with us.
Attention all downtown New York City workers. The new 9/11 Notice Act requires lower Manhattan businesses to notify employees of their rights under the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. You should have received your notice by now. If you haven't, call the 9/11 lawyers at Hanson and Rosesco.
At Village Care Max, we take a personal approach in arranging the best quality healthcare options for you.
Communicating with my doctors and health plan is important to me. Being a trained nurse, my Village Care Max care manager takes the time to educate my family and I about my Medicare Advantage health options, such as OTC, dental coverage, vision, and hearing. She helps me make the right decisions.
Village Care Max. See what's possible when healthcare gets personal. For more information, call us or visit villagecaremax.org.
Here's a recipe for a great vacation. Gather all your ingredients. Add water, Stir vigorously and spread generously. Now, add 3 cups to taste. Shake to combine and roll everything out. Then, let rise and rest before serving. Sound good? Head to the Lake George area and make a few memories of your own.
We make junk disappear by giving it a new purpose. We donate the donatables so that a new family can love them.
They get a new life with a new family.
We recycle the recyclables.
Raw material for new products.
And any organic materials are taken for composting.
Where it will someday become soil again.
We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point. Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK or visit 1-800-GOTJUNK.com.
Attention all downtown New York City workers. The new 9/11 Notice Act requires lower Manhattan businesses to notify employees of their rights under the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. You should have received your notice by now. If you haven't, call the 9/11 lawyers at Hanson and Rosesco.
Stage is your all-access pass to Broadway, Off-Broadway, and the best live entertainment in the city. The interviews and backstage exclusives. All that's made On Stage the go-to source for entertainment for over 20 years. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for On Stage. Also available on the Spectrum News app. I'll see you at the theater. Exclusively on Spectrum.
It's 5 o'clock. 1-800-GOT-JUNK for home or office. We make junk disappear.
It's 5 o'clock in the city. I'm Monica Pergament. Welcome back to the Rush Hour. Here's what's happening. The Adams administration continues to face mounting political fallout after federal agents searched the homes of interim police commissioner Tom Donlin over the weekend. The release of body cam footage of a police shooting on a Brooklyn subway continues to draw criticism as the attorney representing the innocent bystander who was shot tells me no shots should have been fired. Appearing in court, federal prosecutors say the suspected would-be Trump assassin wrote a letter stating his intent to kill the former president and urged the judge to keep the suspect in jail. And a new report shows the NYPD has failed to comply with a court-ordered mandate to reform stop and frisk practices. The 5 o'clock rush starts right now. Good Monday afternoon. We will get to your top stories in just a moment, but first we're going to get a snapshot of the forecast with Michael. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Annika. Outside, we're continuing to see a lot of clouds, and a few of us have actually seen some showers across the 5 boroughs. But some time since we've seen at least some raindrops on our windows, if you've been driving around, then you could see 1 or 2 more of those passing showers or just some light drizzle for this evening. Otherwise, we continue to see plenty of clouds and below average temperatures, only into the lower 60s. You might want to grab a light jacket on your way out the door. Otherwise, I'll be tracking more midweek rain chances. That's all coming up. Back to you, Annika.
Okay, thanks. Now to our top story. Investigations into top city officials continue. Interim Police Commissioner Tom Donlin has become the latest member of the Adams administration to come under investigation by federal authorities. It remains unclear whether this is related to other ongoing investigations. Donlin says that federal authorities executed search warrants at his residences on Friday. This comes just over a week after he was appointed interim commissioner. He issued a statement that reads in part, "They took materials that came into my possession approximately 20 years ago and are unrelated to my work with the New York City Police Department." Earlier today, the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information at the NYPD was on New York One. He responded to concerns that New Yorkers are losing faith in the department amid these growing investigations.
What we can't assume is that because we have investigations going on, there is some, we should assume that people are guilty of anything. We, like everyone else, you have to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. And what we need to do as police officers is just continue to keep New Yorkers safe.
The City Department of Investigations is also probing the city sheriff's office and Sheriff Anthony Miranda. Several city officials are now calling for Mayor Adams to step down amid these investigations. And these officials include City Council member Tiffany Caban and State Senator Jessica Ramos, as well as City Controller Brad Lander. And meanwhile, the body camera footage from the Brooklyn bystander shooting was released on Friday. A word of caution here, the video that you're about to see can be disturbing to some. It shows this tense encounter between NYPD officers and 37-year-old Darrell Mickles. Investigators say that Mickles first jumped a turnstile, then later charged at them with a knife. The encounter ended with 4 people shot, including Mickles, an officer, and 2 bystanders, one of them critically. Mickles has now been indicted on 8 counts, including attempted aggravated assault upon a police officer and theft of services. Despite several protests calling for more police accountability as it relates to this incident, Mayor Adams has continued to defend the officer's actions. Nicholas Liakas is the attorney for Gregory Delpech and his family. Delpech remains in critical condition. He is the bystander who was wounded, suffering a gunshot wound to the head. First of all, welcome. Thanks for coming on. And why don't we start with Mr. Delpech's current condition? Can you update us on how he's doing?
So thank you, first off. With an injury like this, it's day to day, and we're hoping for the best. I haven't been able to confirm, and I don't think at this point it would be appropriate to do so, what his long-term prognosis will be. We are hopeful that he will make a miraculous recovery. He obviously has been through extensive trauma, and the family right now is just rallying behind him in hopes that he will be able to function.
The NYPD has continued to defend the actions of the police officers that day. On New York One this morning, the spokesperson for the department had this to say, and as you know, they released the videotape. I want to play for you what he said this morning and then to get your response.
You're dealing with somebody who is armed with a knife. You're dealing with them in close quarters. Anybody that knows about the use of force knows that a knife in close quarters is probably the most dangerous thing you can be dealing with as a police officer. They tried to use their tasers, it did not work.
Your reaction to that?
Well, first off, this goes to the tools that we're giving our officers. You know, there's a staggering statistic that tasers are largely ineffective. And when you have a circumstance where you're dealing with someone who is potentially emotionally disturbed and you are tasing them multiple times, you're only going to aggravate the situation. And that's exactly what happened here. I mean, Mr. Mickles gets increasingly agitated, and the only tool left that the officers have is their service pistol. Now, that being said, you know, with the nature of the event taking place and not being de-escalated and actually being escalated because of these ineffective tasers, now when you have the pistols trained on Mr. Mickles, he clearly stops. And when he sees that service pistol out, he stops, yet Officer Wong takes a shot at his left flank, and that's when multiple shots are fired. And it's our position that no shots should have been fired at any point. He was essentially surrendering at that time. His hands were down, and he was not moving or charging any officers. So, you know, we have to take a very hard look at what tools we're giving our officers because you know, an escalation of a situation like this puts everyone in danger, as we now can see.
Yeah, I wanted to get, and I should point out that we had asked the NYPD for the data on their tasers, and what they told us really is exactly what you just said. They are ineffective in a large portion of the times that they are discharged. I wanted to get what was yours and the family's initial reaction upon seeing that video. Was it as you had expected, or was it different?
Believe it or not, it was not as we expected. Based on what the NYPD's statements were in terms of what the video would show, we expected something different. And we had a first look at the video together, and we were outraged. We were outraged at the fact that shots were fired in that circumstance. Listen, we understand that this person may have been emotionally disturbed. The officers were faced with a very tense situation, but it is their training and their job to try and de-escalate. And we don't want to take away from the important work that the police does, but at the same time, when someone is in this type of condition and they're combative with officers, and you're making matters worse by using these weapons or these tools that are supposed to be non-lethal, and you're making situations worse because of it. I mean, everybody is now in a worse off position because now the situation is even more dire. Tempers and agitation is rising. So, we're setting our officers up for failure with these tasers. And unfortunately, it's the public, and especially in this scenario, the innocent bystanders that suffer for it.
What's your reaction to the mayor's justification of the officers firing their weapons? He said that they should be commended for how they really showed a great level of restraint.
To some extent, I would say that the police, like I said, are doing a very difficult job in dealing with someone who is clearly agitated and combative. But the last portion of that encounter is unnecessary. And because someone is agitated, because someone has a knife, even though they weren't at that moment threatening the officers or in any position to lunge or injure any of the officers, the 90% leading up to that point where he stops and his hands are down, surrendering when he sees those firearms, that doesn't absolve them of that last 10% where they actually take the shot. I think at that point it was very clear that he was no longer a threat. He realized it was no longer a taser, it was a firearm, and he stops and his back is to the train car and his hands are at his sides. At that point, you call for backup. You try to eliminate any bystanders from being in the zone of danger, or and that's how you need to deal with that scenario. I think Officer Wong, who, as you can see in the video, has one hand trained on his weapon, starts firing, and because of that, he actually ends up shooting his partner.
Mm-hmm. Does the family think, or do you believe that the officers, both of them in this case, but you mentioned Officer Wong, who ended up shooting his partner, that there should be a level of discipline involved? What is your perspective on that?
Well, anytime there's an officer involved shooting, I think it's prudent to, at least limit the officer's standing in terms of how they're interacting with the public and what type of restrictive duty they may be on until a full investigation is done. I don't believe a full investigation has been complete. I think we're still, waiting for some answers here in terms of the timing of things and the ballistic reports and how many shots were fired by each officer. I believe Officer Wong, at this point, it's believed that it's 6 shots and Officer Mays fired 3 shots. But I think at this point we should be able to agree that there should be no commendations for officers shooting 4 people in a subway station.
Nicholas Liakis, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael is back now with another check of the forecast. Michael.
Well, Annika, we've seen a few showers outside. The raindrops hit my window. I said, what's going on? We haven't seen rain in quite some time.
I was not ready for it. I do not have an umbrella or a rain jacket.
Well, I don't think you'll need that. We're not expecting any heavy rain building across the 5 boroughs, but a few showers possible for your evening commute home. Notice on our satellite and radar, some of those showers surprisingly holding up from the west, even though the air is so dry. So we're seeing a few showers for the evening commute home. I think as we look ahead into the overnight, things will be on the drier side, but we do have some more rain chances into the forecast as we do move throughout the week. And I want to talk quickly about potential tropical cyclone 9, which will be Helene, that's developing right now into portions of the Gulf. Let's take a look at the tropical satellite. This is our system right here. It's currently to the southwest of Grand Cayman, and we're continuing to see this potentially strengthening very quickly as it moves over the next coming days. So it's 110 miles south-southwest of Grand Cayman. Now notice over the next couple of days, by Wednesday morning, strengthening into a Category 1 hurricane, then eventually becoming a Category 2 hurricane as it makes its way into the Gulf. And the early calls are for it to make landfall somewhere in the Big Bend. Wouldn't be surprised if this strengthens to even a major Category 3 hurricane near the portions of the Big Bend into Florida, but pretty much anywhere from areas like Tallahassee to Tampa. Now's the time to start preparing, as it could still make landfall in any of these areas. Life-threatening storm surge, heavy rain, as well as hurricane force winds. Eventually it makes its way north, doesn't impact our area. Eventually it becomes a post-tropical low and will bring lots of rainfall into portions of the southeast. And there are still several ways of where this can track a little bit further west or further east, as these are called spaghetti plots, are predicting the path of this hurricane. So of course we are keeping a close eye on it as we move in the coming days. Locally here at home in New York City, temperatures into the upper 50s tonight, upper 60s tomorrow with cloudy skies. Showers possible by Wednesday, more rain into the forecast for Thursday and Friday. And notice temperatures gradually start to warm up as we look ahead into the weekend. Back to you, Annika.
Okay, Michael, thanks. Still to come on the rush hour, former President Donald Trump has been the Republican candidate for 3 national elections. Is a 4th in his future? And federal prosecutors reveal that the suspect in the Trump apparent assassination attempt left a note and offered reward money for anyone to, quote, complete the job. These stories and more when the rush hour returns. Stay with us.
Money on One is brought to you by BMW. Test drive a BMW at your Tri-State BMW centers today or visit us at tristatebmw.com. BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
This is the GMC Sierra, powered by the TurboMax engine, with the confidence of 430 pound-feet of best-in-class standard torque. GMC Sierra, it's the truck. Current eligible GMC lessees can get this low mileage lease on this 2024 Sierra Elevation for around $389 per month. We are professional grade GMC.
The all-new Santa Fe is a giant leap forward. It's incredibly tough, unbelievably big, and amazingly smart. The all-new, epically capable Hyundai Santa Fe. There's joy in every journey. Lease an all-wheel drive Hyundai Santa Fe for only $279 a month, or get 2.99% APR for up to 60 months. Hurry in.
Beaches Jamaica sale now on. Fly direct from New York. Visit beaches.com or call 1-800-BEACHES.
Let's chase new colors this fall in St. Pete Clearwater. Let's sink our toes in sugar white sand and glide across emerald green water. Let's bask in a warm golden glow. Let's marvel at fiery reds, yellows, and oranges all season long. Let's discover a palette of fresh fall colors along America's best beaches in St. Pete Clearwater.
33507.
Dare to compare. Bob's Playdate versus my competitor's similar set. Both have a pop-up sleeper and storage, but mine's only $7.99. Theirs is over $2,000. See how much you can save when you dare to compare. In store or at mybobs.com.
33491.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Stanley Steamer. From carpets, upholstery, air ducts, and more, it's not clean until it's Stanley Steamer clean.
See this? There's a ring.
Holding their front and center as the UN General Assembly is underway this week. Michael will be back in just a few minutes with the full forecast. Back inside the studio, the man suspected of an apparent assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump allegedly left a letter detailing his plans. According to a new filing by federal prosecutors, a witness told investigators that Ryan Wesley Roth had dropped off a box at his home months before, which contained ammunition, a metal pipe, tools, 4 phones, and various letters. The witness said After learning about the apparent attempt on Trump's life, he opened that box. One letter addressed to, quote, the world says, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and I gave it all the gumption I could muster. It is up to you now to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete the job." Ralph has since been charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. With 42 days left until Election Day, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump are now nearing the final stretch of the race. A new poll shows Trump's narrow advantage in Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina has grown a little bit, but there is still no clear leader in this race. Here's what else is happening in Decision 2024. Trump will hold a rally in Pennsylvania today. Harris meets with United Arab Emirates president at the White House to discuss the Middle East crisis. Harris accepted CNN's presidential debate invitation for October 23rd, but Trump argues that it would be a bad thing for the country to have another debate while Americans are already voting. Harris also said she will deliver a speech later this week laying out her economic vision, and Trump announced that if he loses in November, this will be his last presidential run. The clock is ticking toward September 30th. That is the deadline to fund the government. And even with a possible deal to avert a lapse in funding, parts of the U.S. government started to prepare for a potential shutdown ahead of that date. Our Washington correspondent Kevin Fry joins us now from D.C. Starting with that, why does it seem, Kevin, I guess we should say that every year we get to this point of a potential shutdown?
I mean, look, this is just pure politics here in Washington. The main goal and purpose of Congress is to pass a funding bill. Joe Biden has famously said that if you want to show me your priorities, show me how you want to spend your money. And so this is the prime argument that we see play out on Capitol Hill every year. It is very, very rare that Congress actually passes spending bills writ large to actually cover whole agencies by the deadline, and so we always see this kind of kick and punt, usually until right before the Christmas holiday. That's creating, of course, an incentive structure for them to actually get things done so they can go home and be with their loved ones in time for the holiday.
That's always the best incentive. Talk, Kevin, then about the specific bill. If it were to be approved, how long would it fund the government for this time?
Right, so if you remember, the original Republican pitch was this 6-month extension coupled with language aimed at basically barring illegal immigrants from voting in federal elections. That said, that is already not legal. So Democrats said this is basically going to frighten people and also is redundant. They pushed back on this proposal. It would also kick, notably, spending into next year when there could be a President Trump in charge of the budgeting process. And so they don't want to see him slash and burn through the budget. What they ended up relying on here was a 3-month extension into December. That is the agreement as it is right now, without any of this voting provision included. It does, however, include about $200 million to try to beef up the Secret Service and enhance their ability to protect people like Donald Trump after we just saw that second reported assassination attempt, or assassination plot at the very least, last weekend.
So talk a little bit about, Kevin, if you would, about the sticking points in negotiations for a longer-term spending bill.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is kind of, as I mentioned at the top, the typical back and forth that you see during, especially an election year, that these are the various maneuverings within the parties to try to land this bill. You have seen, particularly over the last few years, Democrats would argue, the Republicans try to put poison pills, as they call them, into the bill, where it's more social policy as opposed to financial policy. And that's one of the sticking points that we have seen, that Republicans try to put these things in the bill, Democrats object, and thus the process kind of fumbles its way along.
Kevin Fry in Washington for us. Thanks so much. Great to see you. More than 350 people are dead and more than 1,000 wounded after Israel's military spokesperson says that its warplanes struck 1,300 Hezbollah targets across southern and eastern Lebanon today. Lebanese officials say it is the deadliest barrage since the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war. The Israeli military warned residents in that area to evacuate their homes ahead of the air campaign. Evacuation orders were the first of their kind in nearly a year of escalating conflict. The Pentagon announced the U.S. is sending additional troops to the Middle East in response to the spike in violence there. And while meeting with the president of the United Arab Emirates today, President Biden said that he has been briefed on the latest developments and that his team is working to de-escalate in a way that allows people to return safely to their homes.
With Optimum Mobile, buy one, get one. Get 2 lines of unlimited mobile for the price of 1. That's 2 unlimited mobile lines for $45 a month. Call 877-6-OPTIMUM or visit Optimum.com/mobile. Get 2 lines of unlimited data, talk, and text to connect on America's largest 5G network with more coverage than Verizon and AT&T combined. All for just $45 a month. Hurry, get 2 lines of unlimited mobile for the price of 1. Call 877-6-OPTIMUM or visit Optimum.com/mobile.
With Seth Harris. You know, people always ask me, Seth, how is 800 Pain Loss so successful if it's just you? How do you win so many cases on your own? And I tell them, I have partners. Allison, Blake, Sherry, Jason, Marla, and that guy.
That's Steven.
And Steven. And a whole bunch more of us that I'm not going to name right now. Hey, shouldn't one of us be back in the office manning the phones?
Harris, Keenan, and Goldfarb. If you're in pain, you need law.
Glow Party! Don't miss the world premiere of Scalosaurus and your favorites, Bigfoot, Megalex, Tiger Shark, and more. Be amazed by the high flyers of freestyle motocross and the all-new fire and frost-breathing robot, Arctic Dawn. Plus, a pre-show VIP and Power Smashers pre-show before each performance, and save up to 50% on kids' tickets. Come watch your favorite Hot Wheels monster truck toys come to life at Barclays Center, September 28th. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com.
The news that broke today.
Let's catch you up on that big story we've been following out of Sunset Park.
Local stories happening now.
So a very active scene on the corner of Franklin and Lafayette.
And the weather you wake up to.
This is moving right into our borough after 7 a.m.
From breaking news in our neighborhoods to inspiring stories from our streets.
They're looking forward to the new opportunities it will bring to the many students.
News 12's News at 10:30 has got you covered.
We are. What New Yorkers want to know, Inside City Hall is here to find out. And we do it every weeknight at 7 and 11 here on New York One, exclusively on Spectrum.
Work programs. The governor announced a new investment into the offshore wind workforce as part of her larger climate action goals.
This initiative, our working together, will create over 1 million registered apprentices in climate-ready fields by the year 2035.
State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins us now to talk a little bit more about this. So tell us about this plan.
Well, Annika, New York has very strict climate goals, and a big part of that is investing in offshore wind, which is something that the state really has been slow at the jump. I mean, there's only one project that has finally been approved and is up and running. 2 contracts are underway, and the governor announced a $2.3 million workforce development program that she says she wants to include electrical workers in the union, and create a pathway for them to get some of these jobs once the state is able to build out a larger part of this renewable energy sector. Of course, as part of the larger goals, New York has to hit a 2030, 2040, 2050 goal of eventually transitioning entirely from fossil fuels to renewable energy. That includes wind, solar, hydro. But because the state's goals are so strict, there has been opposition, of course, and there have been other constraints, like when it comes to finances or the supply chain, especially during COVID. But this was kind of one of those announcements kicking off Climate Week on part of the governor. But, you know, when you look, you peel back a little bit, you say, well, New York is actually not as far forward as they try to make out to be, but this is a way for them to try to push that narrative forward.
Oh, well, in that vein, kicking off Climate Week, congestion pricing was one of the big initiatives that was supposed to help clean the air in the city.
Exactly.
And now she's facing 2 lawsuits over that. Was there any mention of congestion pricing with this announcement?
Well, when the governor's talking about climate, you can't help but ask her about what's going on with congestion pricing. She is the official that put a pause on it barely a month before it was supposed to take effect. And that's something that advocates, proponents of this plan said would really reduce pollution in the city, but then also assist with shoring up aging infrastructure that's been susceptible to issues like flooding and other climate-related disasters. Now, the governor did address this earlier. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
They're absolutely not going to be delayed because we are on path to achieve our energy goals, our climate goals. That has been baked into the calculations we're doing here. As I said back in June, this was a temporary pause. That $15 at this time is just too much to put on everyday New Yorkers who are struggling. But that does not mean that we're not fully committed.
So the governor continues to mention price tag. Yes, it definitely is something that's been on her mind, especially as there is an election coming up. But advocates of congestion pricing say, well, the longer you wait, the more expensive it will be for New York. And New York could possibly even miss out on federal funding that would go towards this plan. So, we'll see what ends up happening with the governor here. She has not released yet what her ideal plan is to fund aging infrastructure with the subways and the bridges and tunnels, but we'll see what she has to say maybe in a couple of months.
Bernadette, thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, a new report shows the NYPD has failed to comply with a court-ordered mandate to reform stop and frisk practices. And weekend box office upset. Find out which movie takes the top spot when the rush hour returns. Stay with us.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Audi. Don't let someone else drive off in the Audi model you've always wanted. Visit your tri-state area Audi dealer to get behind the wheel of yours today.
Make this a summer to share in the 3-row Kia Sorento, the tech-forward Sportage, the available all-wheel drive Seltos, or the IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus Telluride, each one recommended by Consumer Reports. This summer, visit your local Kia dealer. Get 0% APR for up to 48 months on the purchase of select new 2024 Sportage and 2024 Sorento models.
If there's one thing we like, it's choices. And your Ford dealer is the place to start. With a full lineup of vehicles and available powertrains. Get your ideal combination of power and capability with gas, hybrid, or all electric. But more important than the power you choose is what you choose to do with it.
Right now, lease a Ford Explorer for $369 a month for 36 months, only at your local Ford stores.
Hi, I'm attorney Scott Reinecke. Rubenstein and Reinecke has helped thousands of injured victims receive the compensation they deserve. If you've been injured in an accident, you need Rubenstein and Reinecke. If you've suffered from medical malpractice, you need Rubenstein and Reinecke. If you've been the victim of police brutality, you need Rubenstein and Reinecke. To find out your legal rights to compensation, call us at 1-800-447-HURT. That's 1-800-447-HURT. Call now.
It's fall in New York State, and you have to see it. Plan the perfect trip, or just jump in the car. Either way, it's going to be breathtaking. It's going to be an adventure you'll never forget. It's what makes it easy to love New York. Start your getaway at iloveny.com.
This portion of the news is brought to you by St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida. Let's shine. Plan your escape at visitspc.com.
It is now 5:30. Time for a look at your Express headlines. Interim Police Commissioner Tom Donlan says federal authorities executed a search warrant on his homes Friday. Donlan issued a statement saying in part that they took materials that came into my possession approximately 20 years ago and are unrelated to my work with the New York City Police Department. A new report finds the NYPD is failing to punish officers who continue to stop and frisk illegally. It says during the past decade, every level of the department has routinely reduced or refused to discipline officers who were found to have wrongly stopped someone. And a gridlock alert is in effect as the United Nations General Assembly is underway. The high security event causes street closures and detours, mostly on the east side of Manhattan. We do have more news coming up for you, but first, Michael has got an update on the forecast. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Annika, outside skies certainly look pretty threatening. We've really seen some light drizzle to a few light showers moving across the 5 boroughs. And looking outside again, you can see all those clouds. A few showers still possible. For the evening commute home, we'll see a lot of clouds, temperatures into the 60s. I'll have more details on our rain chances for the rest of the week. That's all coming up. Back to you, Annika.
Thanks, Michael.
I just spoke with
A new report out today is highlighting the systemic failures in holding NYPD officers accountable for stop and frisk misconduct, with police commissioners often reducing or dismissing punishments for civil rights violations. So joining me now to explain is defense attorney Ron Kuby. And before we get into the details of this report, why don't we start with stop and frisk in general? A lot of people think, oh, stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional. Tell us what is and is not allowed in stop and frisk in New York.
In New York, as in everywhere else really around the country, if the police have reasonable suspicion based on facts that they can articulate that the suspect has committed or is in the process of committing or just committed a crime and is armed, that person can be stopped and frisked. That's the legal application of stop and frisk. None of the court cases or other rulings have changed that at all.
So talk about what this report found, because it does criticize NYPD leadership in so much as what they were allowing to happen and disciplining or not disciplining officers.
So during the Bloomberg administration, Bloomberg made stop and frisk sort of his cornerstone of crime fighting. And we had as many in 1 year, 600,000 people stopped, frisked, basically thrown up against the wall and searched, almost all of whom were people of color. In 2013, that changed as a result of a lawsuit that was brought, as well as Mayor de Blasio being elected mayor, and they dramatically reduced stop and frisk. And people were very upset about the time, saying it's going to lead to a rise in crime, but of course it did not do that. What has happened in the past 10 years, though, according to this really detailed report, is that illegal stop and frisk continues, even when police commanders at all levels in the hierarchy know about it. Officers are almost never punished for violating people's Fourth Amendment rights.
You say they're almost never punished. What should be the legal consequences for officers who do engage in an illegal stop and frisk? What should NYPD leadership be doing that the report says it is not doing?
Well, the NYPD actually worked out a so-called punishment matrix. And if you are found guilty of unlawful stop and frisk, you lose 3 days of vacation time. That penalty is almost never implemented. And the reality is, if you put aside the cost of stop and frisk in terms of community relations and trust and the rights that people have, if you just set all that aside and you look only at the benefits, you can see why this continues. Because the more people you stop and frisk, the more guns you will find on people. That's just a mathematical fact. And when you're under pressure by the mayor, get the guns off the street, the tendency is to throw as many people as possible against the wall, and then you can tout X number of guns recovered this week, this month.
So now we have this week a new police commissioner, a new interim police commissioner.
Well, we do now. What time is it? I don't
It's been about a week and a half.
Okay.
Commissioner Caban is no longer in office. He stepped down. Now with a new commissioner in, and this report being released, is there the expectation that it is the chance to turn the page and change this policy, or is that not expected to happen? I mean, what are we expecting to come out of this report, I should say?
Well, this report was commissioned by the federal judge who was overseeing compliance with the 2013 orders to the NYPD. And given the fact that every police commissioner since 2013 has been implicated in the same nonfeasance and malfeasance. I don't think anybody really expects Commissioner Donlin to be doing much of anything as long as he's here.
Let me just read you the statement that we did get from the city law department. In part of it says that every day the NYPD is working to deliver a better New York by protecting public safety and strengthening partnerships with the communities it serves. The department is proud that New York remains the safest big city in America and of the tremendous strides it has made in collaboration with the Monitor and her team. We are reviewing the report and will provide comments to the court. Just really quickly, Ron, you said that, the question, I guess, is what are the consequences that this report could have on the NYPD? They already have this federal monitor.
The consequences, if the judge wants to take this seriously, and apparently she does because she commissioned this report, she can impose new restrictions on the NYPD. She has extensive authority to engage in more oversight than currently exists. It is certainly bad news for the NYPD, and they've had quite a bit of it lately.
Defense Attorney Ron Kuby, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
It's time now for our picture of the day. Here's a unique shot of the Brooklyn Bridge and a reminder to post using the hashtag NY1Pick. The Rush Hour returns after this.
Watch all month long as Spectrum News New York One celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month. This is Community. This is Spectrum News New York One, exclusively on Spectrum.
Moving forward starts with getting answers about where we are. What New Yorkers want to know, Inside City Hall is here to find out. And we do it every weeknight at 7 and 11 here on New York One, exclusively on Spectrum.
Are you having trouble hearing your TV or listening to conversations in loud spaces? Then it might be time to consider Nano hearing aids. Don't mistake Nanos for cheap amplifiers. Nanos are FDA-registered OTC hearing aids, which means no more having to go to a doctor and spend thousands. Nano hearing aids are now offering $100 off through this special TV offer. Order right now and get 2 CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297. And if you're not happy, return them for a full refund.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. We're done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s. But showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Watch all month long as Spectrum News New York One celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month. This is Community. This is Spectrum News New York One, exclusively on Spectrum.
Moving forward starts with getting answers about where we are. What New Yorkers want to know, Inside City Hall is here to find out. And we do it every weeknight at 7 and 11 here on New York One, exclusively on Spectrum.
Multiple federal probes. Now the city's sheriff's office and Sheriff Anthony Miranda is under investigation. Political anchor and reporter Bobby Kuza here with more on that. Mayor Adams and Sheriff Miranda, they go way back, Bobby.
Yes, went back to Adams' time in the police department. And the New York City Sheriff is kind of an obscure agency traditionally, right? It's not somebody who's normally out in the public eye. I mean, they do property seizures. They check out the sale of unlicensed cigarettes, that sort of thing. But Anthony Miranda has become very high profile because of cannabis, right? Because the city has been leading the shutdown of unlicensed cannabis sellers. And Miranda has kind of been the face of that effort because the task force, which also involves the NYPD, but it's led by the New York City Sheriff's Office. So he's doing news conferences with the mayor. He's really been in the public eye. And now we have learned, it was reported first in Politico, that he's under investigation. Now, apparently he's under investigation by the City Department of Investigation. This is not federal investigators, so it appears to be separate and distinct from the various federal investigations into the mayor and his campaign and other members of his administration. This appears to be something altogether. But that doesn't make things any better for the mayor. I mean, the fact that we now have these mushrooming scandals, and this appears to be an entirely new one. But to be clear, we don't know a lot about what this involves. Reportedly it has to do with some type of public corruption. Miranda has been something of a controversial figure, and a union representing workers in the sheriff's office has accused him of fostering a hostile work environment. There has been some controversies in the past. This, though, is something new if there's actually a formal investigation going on.
It is hard to keep track.
It is incredibly hard to keep track at this point.
There was also a report out today that we should discuss, and this is basically highlighting what are, frankly, failures of the city to enforce what it was supposed to in terms of stop and frisk. And it's pretty harsh on the city apparently not punishing officers who engage in illegal stop and frisk. What is the NYPD going to do about this? Because there are serious consequences for not complying with this court order.
It'll be interesting to see what the judge in the case says. So this all stems from a court case that goes back to 2013. It's known as the Floyd case, which was a landmark case. I mean, this was where the judge actually ruled that the way the NYPD was carrying out stop and frisk was unconstitutional, right? So they had to reform the process. I mean, we have seen the number of stop and frisk drop dramatically since the Bloomberg era, but it appears, based on this report that was sort of commissioned by the judge in the case, that there is virtually no discipline of officers who are found to have engaged in some sort of misconduct or wrongdoing as part of the stop and frisk process, which was something that was supposed to be part of the case, part of the reforms undertaken by the NYPD. So the former judge who actually produced the report, this is a 500-page report, and it's scathing in its findings, and it puts a lot of blame on the commissioners, not just the current or former commissioner, but commissioners over the period of 10 or so years for knocking down disciplinary measures in cases where it had been substantiated, right, by outside investigators that there had been some wrongdoing, but in almost all these cases there was little or no discipline that was actually carried out by the department. Because remember, the commissioner has final say. No matter what the CCRB, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, no matter what they find, the commissioner can disregard its findings and throw out any kind of discipline altogether, and that's what's happened in a lot of cases.
And that was Commissioner Caban for the most part, and he's no longer with us.
Yes, but even previous commissioners had done sort of the same thing, although under Caban, it was found, and there's a lot of reporting about this, that he, more than previous commissioners, had downgraded or thrown out, recommended discipline against police officers.
So I guess it remains to be seen whether our current interim commissioner in the office for about a week and a half now, Donlin, whose homes have been investigated, or had been searched, I guess, by federal investigators.
In yet another investigation that we have.
We didn't touch on that one, right?
Right.
But it remains to be seen what he will do in terms of stop and frisk, because he's not in this report.
Exactly, and we'll see whether the judge demands some reforms of the NYPD. But up to this point, it seems as though they haven't really complied with the reforms that the court, as part of this agreement, had sort of laid out.
Very interesting. Bobby Huza, as always, thank you so much. And you can catch Bobby and the rest of the political team at 7 on Inside City Hall. We're going to take a quick break, but first, there are just 42 days until Election Day. New York One's asking people on the streets of the city to weigh in on the race for president.
Crime right now, because the crime is high. Low-income housing for people that need help.
I want to hear the candidates talk about building affordable housing units and a way to cap rent prices.
Improve education, free health care.
Inflation is ridiculous right now. I think people are a lot more depressed than the past couple of years. I think inflation is a direct due to that, because if you're not able to sufficiently feed yourself, how are you going to be happy?
New York One's Weather on the Ones is brought to you by your local Ford stores. Take the season by storm in a weather-ready Ford SUV. View current offers at buyfordnow.com.
Moving forward with node-positive breast cancer,
My fear of recurrence could have held me back,
but I'm staying focused.
and doing more to prevent recurrence.
Verzenio is specifically for HR-positive, HER2-negative, node-positive early breast cancer with a high chance of returning as determined by your doctor when added to hormone therapy. Verzenio reduces the risk of recurrence versus hormone therapy alone. Diarrhea is common, may be severe, or cause dehydration or infection. At the first sign, call your doctor, start an antidiarrheal, and drink fluids. Before taking Verzenio, tell your doctor about any fever, chills, or other signs of infection. Verzenio may cause low white blood cell counts, which may cause serious infection that can lead to death. Life-threatening lung inflammation can occur. Tell your doctor about any new or worsening trouble breathing, cough, or chest pain. Serious liver problems can happen. Symptoms include fatigue, appetite loss, stomach pain, and bleeding or bruising. Blood clots that can lead to death have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have pain or swelling in your arms or legs, shortness of breath, chest pain, and rapid breathing or heart rate, or if you are nursing, pregnant, or plan to be.
I'm focusing on what counts.
Talk to your doctor about reducing your risk.
Hi, Grandma. I played baseball today.
Oh, that's great.
What position did you play?
First base.
That's where Grandpa used to play.
When our hearing wouldn't allow us to use a regular phone, it made us feel isolated.
It became difficult to communicate with our friends and family.
Clear Captions was an easy solution for us.
Clear Captions provides captions on a phone like captioning on your TV, so you can see what the caller is saying live as they say it.
Making it easy to understand and respond immediately.
There is no insurance or Medicare required. Clear Caption service is provided at no cost to you through a federally funded program. We deliver, install, and train you on how to use your phone, all at no cost to you.
Give your loved ones the independence and connection they deserve.
Call now to see if you qualify to get a Clear Captions phone at no cost to you. Call 1-800-517-2026. That's 1-800-517-2026.
Money on One is brought to you by BMW. Test drive a BMW at your Tri-State BMW centers today or visit us at tristatebmw.com. BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Welcome back to the Rush Hour. As we get closer to the top of the hour, let's take a look at what's new right now. 2 men have pleaded guilty to providing the fentanyl-laced heroin that killed a prominent transgender activist Cecilia Gentili earlier this year. Michael Quillan pleaded guilty to a charge that he distributed and possessed with the intent to distribute heroin and fentanyl. This happened in a Brooklyn federal courtroom today. Antonio Venti entered a guilty plea to that same charge back in July. Former President Donald Trump has confirmed that he will be the sole featured speaker at this year's Al Smith charity dinner here in the city. Vice President Kamala Harris' campaign said that she will skip that event in favor of campaigning in a battleground state. And Beetlejuice three-peated that number at #1 this weekend at the box office. Tim Burton's sequel raked in $26 million, boosting its domestic box office total to $226.8 million. Transformers 1 landed in second place at its opening. The animated Autobots adventure brought in $25 million. For the last stop on the Rush Hour, September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. According to the National Cancer Institute, childhood cancer is the leading cause of disease-related death past infancy in children and adolescents. So the month of September is a time to honor children and families who have been impacted by cancer and to highlight research efforts. One organization doing just that is the Eli Sunshine Fund, whose mission is to raise awareness and fund research and trials to find a cure for Ewing sarcoma. Here's part of Eli's story.
Eli was born February 22nd, and he was just the sweetest baby with the loudest cry you've ever heard. Big eyes, like soulful eyes.
When I would walk by him, he would grab my hand, and I've never seen anyone, even a grown-up, grab my hand so hard. You could just tell the kid was a special kid.
When he was a baby, he would follow Harry around. Harry was his hero, is his hero. They had such a beautiful relationship.
When we found out that Eli was sick, I never imagined that he would be anything but healthy in the future. That's just the way we were programmed. That's the way he is. So it was never a thought for me that they wouldn't have some kind of treatment or some way to help him.
And I'm joined now by Eli's mother, Haley Friedman Morrison, and Dr. Julia Glade-Bender from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Welcome to you both. Thank you for coming in. And Haley, let me start with you. It's been just over a year since we lost Eli, and you haven't wasted 1 minute in honoring his memory, and you're doing all this work to help other families. Tell us what you want people to learn from your experience.
First of all, thank you so much for having us. I think first and foremost, September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, as you shared, and most people don't know that. And I think that's the first step. We need to raise awareness. We need to let people know that this is important. This is a disease that people think doesn't affect anyone they know. 1 in 260 children are going to be diagnosed with that. And Eli was one of those people. And for me and my husband and my family, it's vital that we do something to honor Eli. He, at just 9, was a strong advocate. And, what I think makes me and my whole community of friends and family, which there are many, motivated is we know that Eli would want us to do something for all the other children, because I always say childhood cancer is almost like a voiceless disease. Parents are too tired, they're exhausted, in treatment or out of treatment. So if there's something we can do to right that wrong, we're gonna do it.
And Dr. Glade-Bender, I know you treated Eli. Talk about some of the work and the research that you're doing at Memorial Sloan Kettering that could help other families that are like, if this work had been done years ago before Eli got sick.
So there are really two kinds of research. One is basic research, understanding the biology of childhood cancer, because it's entirely different than adult cancer. People don't realize that. Childhood cancer is not about an accumulation of exposures to toxins. Childhood cancer is about something that went wrong in the developmental process. So the biology is entirely different. So there are people in the lab trying to understand what makes pediatric cancer tick so we can develop new therapies specifically for pediatric cancer. And then I'm really on the clinical side. Once we figure those mechanisms out and we can figure out new drugs that might target them, my job is to introduce them into children in a safe way and see if we can improve the outcomes.
And we're just looking at those statistics. Just 4% of National Health Institute's cancer funding goes to children's cancer research. The other 96% goes to adult cancer research. How much would more funding help the work that you're doing in the clinical trials?
Well, we are wholly dependent on philanthropy to be able to do the good work that pediatric cancer researchers do. More than 50% of the funding from pediatric cancer research comes from individuals and philanthropic groups like the Eli Sunshine Fund.
And with that money, are you hopeful that you could get to a cure if you had more funding?
I think funding is critical. I think, as Haley mentioned, awareness is also critical, because it's pressure from the community that often helps us convince pharmaceutical industry to invest in developing the drugs that we need for kids.
And Haley, you've started this fund. We had the fundraiser yesterday. And tell me what you want the goal of the fund to achieve.
I think the goal of the fund is, again, to let people know that this is something that everyone should care about. If you know about this, you can't walk away saying you don't. I think I shared with you earlier, and well-meaning, well-intentioned people say to me and my husband all the time, and I understand it, I can't imagine. This is unimaginable. And what I say to them is, it was unimaginable to us as well, until it wasn't. So I would hope that people who see this segment, we have signs up around New York City, and we've expanded it nationally. Other people and foundations have adopted it. Signs in the window, I'm inspired by breast cancer. I'd love signage across September for the month in businesses. So I guess what I want is people to imagine and think about it and then do something.
Haley Friedman Morrison, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Dr. Julia Glade Bender, thank you for the work you're doing. We really appreciate both of you coming in. And more information, we should point out, can be found at EliSunshineFund.org. Thanks for watching the Rush Hour on this Monday afternoon. I'm Monica Pargament. Ron Lee's up next with your evening news. I will see you back here tomorrow at 4. Have a great night.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Village Care Max. See what's possible when healthcare gets personal.
Attention all downtown New York City workers. The new 9/11 Notice Act requires lower Manhattan businesses to notify employees of their rights under the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. You should have received your notice by now. If you haven't, call the 9/11 lawyers at Hanson and Rosesco.
Hey, where's Roscoe?
Where's Roscoe?
Where's Roscoe?
¿Dónde está Roscoe?
He's working.
If you think you have bed bugs, you know what to do. Call Bell and Roscoe, the bed bug specialists. Roscoe, the bed bug dog, sniffs out bed bugs with accuracy. And only Bell Environmental uses Instant Freeze to treat your home and office. Instant Freeze is Bell's exclusive technology, safe on furniture, electronics, pesticide-free. So if you think you have bed bugs, call Bell Environmental today.
Here's a recipe for a great vacation. Gather all your ingredients. Add water. Stir vigorously. And spread generously. Now, add 3 cups to taste. Shake to combine. And roll everything out. Then, let rise. And rest before serving. Sound good? Head to the Lake George area and make a few memories of your own.
We make junk disappear.